This is how everyone's going to get mad at me. Here's my idea. Order Papa John's, then dispose of the Papa John's pizza. It's garbage. It's
Throw it in the
horrible.
trash.
Not fit for
the toilet.
human consumption. Don't even give it to like a homeless person. Just throw it out.
Yeah, that'd be cruel.
And then order a Domino's pizza, vastly superior, heroic meal right there.
True. Absolutely true. No lie there.
And dip the Domino's pizza in the garlic sauce from the Papa John's. Now, isn't that the most decadent thing? Isn't that a perfect just an act to emulate the steady dissolution of late capitalist empire? Now that Confederate statues are under attack, Nancy Pelosi came out with a statement demanding that the Confederate statues in the U.S. Capitol, or the statues of Confederates, be taken down. This is a compromise. We take down every Confederate statue and replace them with a statue of Joe Paterno. This will appease 100% of the country.
Oh, yeah.
It's win-win. It's really win-win.
All the Confederate defenders will be like, all right, that's fine. There is a somewhat less evil way to go about it, which is to have the aid of a chemist with a laboratory. And it just so happens that there is a very big fan of Capone Speakeasy who lives right here in D.C. and is a chemist, if you'd like to drop in on him.
Yeah, let's check him
Let's
out.
read out to our ally.
All right. He's a man by the name of Jonathan Davis. You head to his basement chemistry lab in his mother's house in Georgetown. You know what? Thank you, Capone lads, for coming to me. I'm horrified to say that Matthew is correct. The substance they are putting in the pizzas is a chemical called fluoride. As you may or may not be aware, fluoride is a poison used by the globalists to emasculate men by increasing their estrogen levels and sapping them of vital bodily fluids. These are, of course, the same globalists who in Hollywood are doing an all-female remake of Fatty Arbuckle meets Nosferatu, even though that movie was perfect the first time, and this movie will not be canon in the Arbuckle mythos.
Shit, guys.
Yo, the progressives are taking over backgammon too.
As you talk, Jonathan, without making eye contact, wheels his chair over to a telegraph station and starts tapping out a message.
Can we
He's
read
not,
the
he's not
message?
sending telegrams again, is he?
Oh no, he loves to send telegrams.
Stop.
Felix, you can figure out what it is.
I think I use my post deciphering ability.
It appears.
I have always had a problem with the letter to the editor policy to the New York Times. Ever since Archie Arbuckle got in there as an editor with his smug New York Knickerbocker attitude and his sarcastic, snarky crap, there is no way to actually get a decent point across to the editors. Furthermore, the city of Boston should be taken out by a runaway trolley.
You ask, he explains. I'm writing a message to Lauren Palmer, editor of Collier's Weekly, who has unjustly banned me from the letters to the editor section merely for demanding that they stop devoting so many column inches in the sports section to covering Cy Young's domestic violence scandals and not enough to the damn games.
I agree with you, John.
I'm secretly stewing about the actual fans and listeners of Capone Speakeasy.
I love them.
They are like fish people to me.
You didn't even understand. If you didn't have all these people like Jonathan giving us a nickel a month to listen to the version of our show that only comes out on RCA radios, you would not be able to afford your opium habit, and
You're right.
I would not be able to afford therapy for the PT. Now, if there was a disorder named PTSD, if I had it, shell shock, for what I experienced when I won the Medal of Honor.
Jonathan, who is still typing out this message, says to you without looking at you, what are you going to do about the fluoride?
It's a good question, boys. What can we do about the fluoride?
I think that we have a duty to the other, northern Angloid skulled people to protect them from this fluoride.
I think we should go to the Smithsonian Institute and just, I don't know, for a day, because we like museums.
Yeah, it's free.
Jonathan, again without looking up, says, I would love to go to the Smithsonian with you, but I'm afraid I have to spend the rest of the day composing letters to the editor. In the comment page of Sporting News, I'm embroiled in a running debate thread with some Princeton-loving kraut named Frederick Borman, who clearly has nothing better to do than spend all day composing these crackpot letters attacking me and the Rutgers football team.
We wish you the best in your ongoing letter writing campaign against Mr. Borman, and I hope this doesn't result in any negative backlash in possibly in the future.
John, never stop posting.
What's particularly repugnant about this cottage industry on the liberal centrist side of punching left and attacking Antifa is that it always comes from a place of bad faith, and ultimately it's not a realistic debate because you're just debating made up shit that shows up on Fox News that is used to gin up the anger of scared old white people. And as well, it is quite rich that people like Beinhardt or Chade or the other unnamables.
Mark Lillo was the other one that came up.
Sure, they can sit back and criticize people like members of Antifa or the Black Lives Matter movement, which are both amorphous, protean movements with no real leadership structure, criticize people who go out in the streets and face off against Nazis, and criticize their tactics in terms of, this is bad optics. This is not a good communication strategy. If I were in charge of Black Lives Matter, here's what I would do. And it's like, you're not. You don't do shit. You don't do anything. Who the fuck are you?
All right, these are as you'll see, like the way I'm imagining, these are all variations on a theme because it's basically the same arguments are going to come up again and again, but you have to have variations on the answers. And the other big one is going to be the pseudo clever retort that come on, Bernie's not really going to all these things he's promised. There's no way that's going to pass Washington, right? Yeah. So like nothing's going to happen. He's not going to get anything done. It's not realistic. Anyone else got some counters to this one?
Yeah, your family members are essentially strangers. You have no bonds with them except for, the accident of birth. Fly to Toronto. Just meet up with a gang of bohemian queers. Adopt them as your new family. Smoke PCP. Plot elaborate heists with them. I saw the other day yet another one of those articles. This might be the 100th one I've seen. That is... time for Republicans to say where you stand. This is in Politico. And you can guess what it is. This article pops up every fucking week that something repugnant happens. It's, Republicans, you're better than this. We're better than this. And the mirror image of that is the liberals who are the centrists who are like, actually, Trump is uniquely dangerous. This week's events show that. Right. And we keep fucking seeing it. And I'm sorry, if you didn't realize this guy was a fucking Nazi from the second he went down that fucking elevator in his cocksucking building, then you're an imbecile. You should never, ever be listened to. He talked about putting Muslims on a fucking list. He talked about torturing family members, children of alleged terrorists. It's been a white nationalist movement from the start, and fuck you for pretending otherwise. People got mad at Geraldo for saying thank you, Iran, and thank you, Trump, for not escalating this any further. And I get that, but then I realized, wait a minute, Geraldo is one of a handful of people that the president actually listens to.
Yeah.
Like, he is a serious advisor to the president.
Did you see that?
So he actually has a moral obligation to flatter him to prevent a war.
Did you see that thing where Geraldo was just like, he was just like, Mr. President, I'm begging you, I'm beseeching you, don't make this terrible mistake again. Like, we cannot afford this war. Please de-escalate the conflict. And people were like, you should go on Fox and say that. And he goes, I'll be on Hannity tonight discussing this very issue. Several minutes later, follow-up tweet, Hannity has just canceled on me. He has just canceled my appearance. So
Geraldo has weirdly reasonable views on foreign policy, and I don't know where they came from.
Well, because Geraldo's one of those
Young Lords.
weepy older
They
dudes
came from the Young Lords.
who just get passionate and just talk themselves into every position, never having thought about it before, and then they forget about it. As
He
soon as
is
they're
like
done talking.
most Americans.
Yes.
He found them in Al Capone's vault.
Nice.
All right.
Excellent.
Let's go, baby.
I saw, a rando online, one of the deranged, 8%ers who are anti-Bernie people. And they said, this is a an insult to the 62.8 million of us who proudly voted for Hillary Clinton and are her ardent supporters. And it's like, you genuinely believe that. You don't realize that because of the two-party system, it's a fucking hostage situation.
Okay.
Most people voted for her with a gun to their head, and they were sick as shit after they did it.
All right. Well, hold on a minute.
Never again.
bad at this.
We came in town on Tuesday night, we were told by the Bernie campaign there were 1,000 people who came from out of state to canvass in the last week to elect Bernie in Iowa. I asked again this morning, and I was told the new estimate, 1,700 people just to elect Bernie Sanders in Iowa.
You know what's going on here, and you know that the bourgeois media lies.
We don't want to jinx it, obviously, but we have to admit, the past few days, we've been getting really giddy about, of course, the possibility of having a future, period, end of sentence, but, of course, as well, of humiliating all of our enemies. Like,
We love it. We love to see it, folks.
you know what I'm talking about. The lunatic anti-Bernie crowd who are currently going through the 5 stages of grief. But, not just them, but, one, for example, the Lily Lifford, Liz Warren supporters. The people who have been on the fence. You remember hearing earlier this year, well, they're actually the same people, so why don't we just pick the woman?
Yeah.
Literally the argument.
Straddle that fence as long as you want. You're going to get splinters in your ass.
Well, as it looks very, very clear that well, you know what? Fine, let's fucking take that logic. There's 2 of them. Exactly one of them is a viable candidate, and the snakes are leaving the ship.
Yeah.
And something we're all really happy about is, coming here, and again, we're not trying to jinx it. We're not trying to spike the football before we're in the fucking end zone, but the football. But I've got to say, it really feels like this is the fulfillment of something my friend and colleague Will Menaker said in 2017, which is, if there is going to be effective opposition against the white supremacist minority right wing in this country, the oligarchy in this country, it has to be led by the socialist left, and you have to bend the knee to the socialist left. And the fact that Bernie Sanders can bring 700 people in the dead of winter to Iowa to make the Bernie journey, to make that happen, means he has an army both offline and online. And everyone feels it, and I can confirm to you that Bernie Sanders himself feels it and knows that this is a revolution that is happening. And that means, again, not trying to jinx anything, but when Bernie wins Iowa, and he wins New Hampshire, and he wins Nevada, when Elizabeth Warren has to leave the race, it means...
When Elizabeth Warren has to crawl into a hole and pour the dirt back over herself.
Holy shit, I'm gonna come.
It means that if her supporters have any fucking actual ideals, they have to get behind Bernie Sanders. And as well,
Get
have
in
to do
line.
something.
Get in line.
Amber hates when I say this, but again, it is a Gambo Thrones term. They have to bend the knee. And Elizabeth Warren will be the Balon Greyjoy after his failed rebellion, bending the knee to Robert Baratheon, giving big structural Bailey as a ward to Brooklyn. He will be returned safe and well after Bernie Sanders is inaugurated the next president of the United States, January 2021. Fuck yeah! William B. Astor House sits on East 65th Street across from Central Park. You attempt to get in the front entrance, but once the doorman realizes you're here from Mark Thurno, he frowns and directs you to a hatch leading into the basement. You open the hatch and walk down the steps and enter a room lit by a disorienting red light, much like a photographer's darkroom. To your left are huge, noisy boilers. This is a basement, after all. And to your right is a kitchenette with a stove and a sink brimming with dirty pots and pans. The back wall of the room is actually a large velvet curtain. In the center of the room is a Roman couch and a footstool. The walls are covered with paintings of raccoons. Thurno has a weathered face like an old catcher's mitt and unnatural dark rings around his eyes, almost like he puts on too much mascara, but it's clearly more something wrong with his skin. He beckons you. Please, have a seat on my couch. All right. I see here three men who are ready to abandon the three thieves. Self-doubt, self-delusion, and thoroughly failing to achieve potential. Which is fortunate, because I also see three warrior monks ready to take mastery over their lives and their livelihoods through mindset.
It's true, because I spend my days, and I really want to believe that in any given moment that there's nowhere else I'd rather be and no one else I'd rather see. And I haven't been able to achieve that yet.
Have you guys ever thought, like, if you did breathing exercises, you could basically impregnate any woman?
I will teach you the raccoon mindset. And with this mindset, you will have the proper mindset in order to achieve your potential and achieve the correct mindset for success in all aspects of your life. The sort of success that a raccoon possesses. For instance, I'm gonna need the fee in advance.
Yeah, I see reason. Like, dude, this is the opportunity of our lifetimes.
So we were actually directed here by a friend of ours, a Mr. Lapland. Are you familiar with him?
Yes, he's a consultant of mine.
Oh, so he's not one of your students.
No. He's Merrick is he's a great guy. We didn't always see eye to eye, but he knows so much about strategic thinking, future branding. But I'm sorry to say he never had the right mindset. He started going crazy a couple weeks ago, talking about Russia and Joseph Stalin, brainwashing people. It's all pretty insane stuff, not the correct mindset, which I will teach you the correct mindset, not the Merrick Lapland mindset,
Do you know
my mindset.
where he might have gotten any of these ideas about Russian sexual interference in American politics?
Well, he didn't get it from my pamphlets. He didn't get it from Raccoon Mindset, because if he had, he would have known that you need to center your life around rooting through garbage bins and conserving your ejaculate. And if he had read that, he would never have believed such absurd things.
I understand the conserving your ejaculate part as a man of science. I mean, we're both educated men.
That is the life
Yeah,
force.
that shit's obvious as fuck.
That's my power. That's my essence. However, with regards to the raccoons, I was wondering, I have a very specific problem in that my family estate that I inherited and had to move into a while ago, I had to move out because there were just too many damn raccoons in the walls. They're scratching all the time. I could hear them even without seeing them. There were raccoons in the walls everywhere.
What's their name?
The William Hackenbush, Esquire. Doctor.
William, what are you doing right now?
I'm sitting and I'm
okay. You're sitting, but you need to be aware of every single part of your body and hyper aware. Always be thinking about your feet and your hands and what they're doing, where they're at every second, every single second. Now, are you doing that, William? Are you doing that?
I am.
Are you now? Picture yourself standing up. Okay, picture yourself standing up and be aware of what your posture is while you're standing up. Okay.
My God.
How do you feel right now? How do you feel?
I just, before I was, I could feel my mind running away from me, going back again to the horrible sound of those raccoons in the walls, and my sister coughing up blood, and then various other things that I won't get into. But and the thing we discovered in the basement of the house. But now I feel present. I feel. I can't wait to tell my colleague Charles Dixon Ward about this.
You right now, if you do these exercises, your ejaculate will cure the Spanish flu. For me, what's the most galling of all of it is that now there are many people who, prior to this would have decried the alt-left or the Bernie bros or whatever, and now saying, I'm alt-left. That's a bad thing that the president says is bad. Well, I'm alt-left. Alt-left means gay people. It means supporters of charter school apps. It's the whole resistance is alt-left.
I mean, the whole concept of it was to say that, like, this is the part of the left that hates POC. Right. And
at the end of the day, it comes back to something that, like, you and I have spoken about, Will, that ultimately, the people who are putting themselves on the line here are members of radical leftist political organizations. They're rabble-rousers. They are members of the DSA and the BLM and the IWW. And if the institutional establishment, center, left, whatever you want to call it, wants to take credit for that, if they want to rely on these radicals as a barrier between them and fascism, if radicals are going to bleed and die in that fight, then radicals should lead that coalition.
Then it turns out that this whole thing was basically, there were these basically Karl Rove, Lee Atwater types in college, but for the Democratic Party, which is like one of the most blood curdling things imaginable, who and now according to like leaked chats have been planning for a year to find this guy's dating profile, match with him, and trick him into being horny to ruin his campaign, get him out of the race so that they could get a fucking internship with this guy, Richie Neal. And
it's a year-long plan to make this guy come. And we pulled it off. A whole Ocean's 11 montage.
But here's the weird thing, though.
I got the best balls guy in Azerbaijan.
Persian or Greek, no man threatens a messenger.
You bring the crowns and heads of conquered kings to my city steps. You insult my queen. You threaten my people with slavery and death. Oh, I've chosen my words carefully, Persian.
You come to my city, you look at my wife, you won't turn down that damn boombox. Could you please stand 10 feet to the left here?
It's like, you could just imagine somebody going to one of these guys and going, dude, you're like running your car in your garage all day long just because you think libs get owned by carbon emissions. You're gonna die. This is crazy. It's like, this is crazy. This is Steve's house.
It's every fucking MAGA chud who took a picture of themselves lying in a dumpster because of something Nancy Pelosi said, puts deplorable and piss drinker in their fucking display name.
Another thing that happens on the way to that ratifies this as sort of the founding document of the current internet alt-right fascists is the scene where they meet up with the bitch-ass Akkadians who are also Greeks and also want to fight.
And also look
the
incredibly
Persians,
gay.
And also look incredibly gay. They look like leather daddies.
They're all bald, though, and
they're
they have,
all
like, leather
bald.
straps.
They're like bears. They're like clean-cut bears. And they want to fight, but they don't have the martial tradition of Sparta. They have the citizen soldier Athenian thing going on. So he's like, there's thousands of us. There's only 300 of you. And he's like, what do you do? And he's like, I'm a potter. What do you do? I'm a sculptor.
I work in the bathhouse.
What do we do? And it's very much of the mind of like those smug internet people who are like, oh, really? You've got a family? You've got a job? You have responsibilities? Guess what I'm doing all day, every day? Posting.
Yeah. Spartans, what is your job? Posting.
Post. And there's a quote. I think this might have been from the show. I don't know, but it was on a tweet here. Sorry, ABC, but the First Amendment grants everyone in America the right to a sitcom. Clunkier, more words, always better. And sure, it doesn't have to be on ABC. Maybe it'll go to whatever the white nationalist version of Roku is.
The white nationalist version.
Roku is a device.
Yes.
It's not a network. It's a device.
Yes, it is. Yes, you're right about that. A Roku is a device. It is not a fucking.
Hey, how about this? The white nationalist version of Roku. What is that? Reiku?
Here's the thing about that. That's not a joke. That's the schematic of a joke. That's forcing you to make the actual joke. A white nationalist version of TV, think about it. Use your heads. That's funny, right? That's not actually completing the joke.
A white nationalist version of TV? What is that? Zyklon TV?
That's giving someone a blueprint of a house and saying, go live there.
Yeah. What was the one you had a joke, right?
Oh, I had a good one. Okay. The white nationalist version of TV would be Turner Diaries Broadcasting Network.
See? That's good. That's actually a joke. And then this is the final form of that joke when it's been turned into a meme where it's font on his stupid face.
Oh, a rage comic.
Fear not, Roseanne fans. Another network will pick it up. Probably whatever the MAGA version of Hulu is.
Again, not a joke. Not a joke.
Why don't we go to a different avenue to talk about a little project, a little treat that we have for you, courtesy of Virgil, Texas, who, as you know, is our political wonk, our elections wonk,
our in-house Frank Luntz.
And now we
I
can
think of him more as a more mysterious Jeff Greenfield.
I consider him more like Dick Morris, but only in one aspect.
You know it.
Foot wonk. Virgil's foot
That's
wonk.
redundant.
Yeah. All wonks are feet, guys.
Election correspondent Cuck Todd.
Yeah. No, but we can now add polling wonk to your resume, Virgil. Why don't you explain this to us?
Cards Against Humanity, the fun meme card game that we all love and play all the time before and after recording every episode of the show, has been doing monthly polls with an actual survey, scientific survey firm, and they invited us to collaborate with them on last month's poll, and we have the results in. This was a sample size of 800, and the theme was conspiracy theories, which obviously we're all in the thrall of. I should have brought my computer or something because the results are on a computer.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
Well done. This is
Let's
fucking
go.
First
I looked at on the way out of my home. I
First-rate
looked
worker.
at my computer and I thought I wanted to do something with this, but I don't have time to masturbate. I've got to go to Will's house and do it there. Okay. That's a joke. I don't masturbate.
Dude, as long as you stay in the bathroom, I don't know what you're doing in there. It could be anything.
He calls it playing Overwatch.
Here are some of the interesting results from the poll.
All right, hear it. Hit it.
Young people are far less likely to believe that Russia interfered with the 2016 election than old people.
Makes sense. They watch less cable news.
Yes. 1 in 5 Democrats who say that Russia interfered in the election support military action against Russia.
What?
Let's go.
Also, 1 in 5 self-described moderates.
I think we're moderate that is inaugurating the age of flesh-melting destruction.
41% think it is at least somewhat likely that the U.S. will be invaded by a foreign power in the next decade.
What the fuck are these people?
Wait, 41% of who?
Of
all
Just the
respondents?
sample of all
Who's
respondents?
invading the United States?
including 54% of women.
Who do they think is invading the United States?
Oh.
Well, I mean, it would have to be like either China or Russia, like the only real.
Russia had no chance.
Yeah.
No chance. And the thing is, it's like we have 3 times as many aircraft carriers as any other country. We have like 11 aircraft carriers. The next closest has, I think, like 2 or 3. There's no. It's absurd. Unless it's going to be Canada. Unless they do like a suicide maple syrup attack. It's not.
Russia has some really cool nukes and some actually pretty amazing artillery systems. Like in some ways better than ours. But in general, is like a great big Radio Shack where there's a raccoon that sort of acts as a de facto manager.
Here's the thing. There's no connection between Russia and the U.S. except between Kamchatka and Alaska. 51% of Republicans believe the United States has the right to help overthrow governments that are hostile to American interests. 38% of Democrats say the same.
38% of Democrats.
Ah, thank God.
Oh man, we are.
I was going to say, like, well,
one.
I thought that number would be low for Republicans, but 38. That sounds about right.
40% of Americans do not believe that the U.S. has interfered with the democratic elections of other nations in the past, including 36% of Democrats. 20% think Russia interfered with the election and that the U.S. has not interfered with democratic elections of other nations in the past.
Just to be clear, Virgil, you these are questions that you submitted that you wanted pulled.
Some of these I submitted, yeah.
Okay.
23% believe that Russia interfered with the election and that the U.S. does have the right to overthrow governments that are hostile to American interests. Now we get on to the fun ones. The Parkland shooting. I had to know this. I had to know what percentage of Republicans believe it's a false flag. Surprisingly low. 1 in 10 self-described strong conservatives believe the Parkland shooting was staged and the survivors were paid actors. 9% of Republicans overall.
Oh, that's not too many.
Not too many, but I mean, the question I need to have answered is, of those strong conservatives or of Republicans overall, if given the opportunity to, would you spank David Hogg? Or if given the opportunity to, would you take David Hogg behind the woodshed? If given the opportunity and you found him alone in the locker room, what would you do to David Hogg?
Well, you know what this says? If we had like if our election system were a list system like in Germany, it means there'd be 20 people in Congress on the false flag ticket.
On the Hog Spankers Alliance.
The Hog Spanking Caucus.
79% of Republicans believe there is a deep state conspiracy to undermine Trump. 14 of those think Parkland was a false flag.
So 79%?
Yes.
Of Republicans think there's a deep state conspiracy to unseat Donald Trump.
Which is interesting. I maybe 5 years ago that number would be shocking, but my eyes just glazed over.
Yeah,
it.
no, that doesn't.
Of course, they're all insane swine. That's it.
Well, I mean, it's the only way to make sense of the facts of him and his myriad astounding corruptions and everything. It's like, well, yeah, that's they're like the people who thought OJ didn't do it because they planted that bloody glove. It's like, oh, the FBI is making him look like an incredibly corrupt piece of shit.
All right. 59% of Americans believe common sense is more important than science in deciding whether something is true, including 70% of senior citizens and 53% of Democrats.
Common sense, the thing we know and love.
Now, here's the question that I really wanted in the poll. It's an open response. Just tell me, what percentage of the country do you believe is currently under Sharia law? Half of the respondents either refused to answer or did not know.
Because they didn't know what it was.
Everyone knows it's half the country.
1 in 3 gave a number higher than 0. And the average of non-zero responses was 3.
I love that.
3%.
I mean, it's not too bad yet. I'd say about 3%. But 3% of the country's under Sharia law.
The median response was 13%. And I think the median is more important when dealing with something like this. So when you see a conservative, like a T-Cod MAGA chud whine about Sharia law, chances are that person believes something in the neighborhood of 10 to 20% of the country is under Sharia law currently.
13% of America would be like, if you added it all together, would be larger than most of the countries in the world.
One individual between the ages of 18 and 24 answered 69%. Shout out to that listener.
Didn't you find out? Wouldn't you ask some questions about 9/11? About 9/11?
No, those got cut.
Oh, they got cut. Because I'm interested in that because I find at this point I'm thinking about it because of the recent news of the Harvard study that said that somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,600 people were killed in the aftermath of last year's hurricane in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And how that's just not a thing anyone talks about. It's like, yeah, that happened. And I just think about how 9/11 was like 3,000 people, and we were willing to spend all the money and kill everyone to make up for it and make sure it never happened again.
Well, because it's not a body count calculation. That's the thing. It's the spectacle of it.
Yeah, no, that's true. But
right, it's also like you can't get really mad at a hurricane. You can't get righteously angry and swear a cool vendetta against a hurricane.
Yeah,
but we're gonna invade Cape Verde.
But it did.
Damn it! Cut that. This is Virgil, Texas, senior medical correspondent of Chapo Trap House, coming to you from an hermetically sealed podcasting chamber. There are 6 centimeters of plexiglass that separate me from any alien pathogens multiplying in society at large. I have with me a gallon of Soylent, an Evian water filter, Wi-Fi, and 1,600 rolls of toilet paper, a 3-month supply that should last me the duration of the current pandemic. The only portal between this isolation cell and the outside world is a quadruple locked security door that can only be opened by a 19-character alphanumeric code known only to me and one other individual who is proscribed under the threat of contract law from revealing... What the fuck, Matt?
What?
What are you doing in the podcasting containment chamber?
I'm eating your fucking food. It's delicious.
How did you get in here?
Well, the door was open. I just walked in.
That's a fire exit. You're not supposed to open a fire exit.
Well, I mean,
The
tell
alarm
that.
will... It's a sign that says the alarm will sound.
None went off, and this is some delicious
You're supposed
ramen.
to heat the sign and not open it.
Nah, ramen's actually pretty good raw. I don't know if you guys have ever tried it that way. It's pretty tasty.
Have you interacted with anyone who has the symptoms of the COVID-19 virus?
I mean, I just last night I was at a spin the bottle party. Everybody seemed like they were doing pretty good.
You're supposed
a
to
few
do
coughs and sniffles.
social distancing.
Yeah, it was fine. We had fun. I'm good.
Oh God, that better be a dry cough.
Hey, Virgil, can I have some of these grapefruit claws?
Chris!
I know that you don't like
Chris,
them.
when did you get here?
Oh, I'm always here. I am your shadow. I am gathering content in the night as you sleep.
He's your dark uncle.
Is that why Matt has a microphone? Did you give him a microphone?
Well, I figured since we were all here, we might as well do a
let's do some
Beltway
potting.
Garage.
Let's pot it up.
Well, it was a nice virus-proof content room.
By the way, you're out of toilet paper.
It was a nice virus-proof content room while it lasted. Guess we're all getting the fucking disease that kills Republicans now.
Darn it.
It's great. That's just great. I was going to do a 6-hour exegesis of the first chapter of Samuel Richardson's masterwork, Clarissa. But since you braying animals are here, we might as well pop open the hood of democracy, take another visit to the Beltway Garage.
Go down to the Beltway Garage. Gonna find out what's going on.
My dear fellow Americans, if I read yet another story by the New York Times or another media outlet about Russian collusion and Mueller's investigation and all this other nonsense, I'm going to go apoplectic. It's crazy. It's insane. It's a disservice to the American people.
Not a threat at all.
Okay? It's white noise. There is no Russian collusion. There is no Russian collusion. China and Russia in 2008, they tapped the DNC and the RNC. They got into their websites. They did all of this collusion back then. No one talked about it like crazy ad infinitum. This is nonsense. The guy's a businessman. Trump's a businessman. He was on Oprah 20 years ago saying the same things now. Remember when Roche Perot said that sucking sound of American jobs or NAFTA? NAFTA was a mistake.
Indeed.
They don't want Trump. These globalist bastards don't want Trump to do this for America. Stop the nonsense.
Garbage. Awful. First of all, halting delivery. He keeps stopping, which is always a bad sign. Once again, starts at the top and doesn't
he begins
escalate.
with a not even a threat. He says, if I hear another word about this, I'm gonna get mad.
Yeah,
I like not this. Even like if I hear another word about this, I'm gonna go fucking take my assault rifle and occupy a dress barn parking lot.
I like.
So Pete Buttigieg polls around the high single digits nationally, and he's in the running in Iowa, a neighboring state to his home state of Indiana. As far as the crosstabs go,
It's not a neighboring state.
wait. Oh shit! It's not.
Yeah,
oh
but
no!
Illinois is between.
Oh god, no!
Indiana
I'm going to
and
retake
Iowa.
all of that. No. I'm the state guy. I can't have this on the record. I can't have
God,
this.
there's so much compromat on these deleted files.
Henry, delete the tapes. all right.
Secret illicit live leak. Listen to Virgil Texas claim that Indiana and Iowa are neighboring states.
The way we've talked about it over the last few years is just like it's a running joke on the show. It's just something we refer to.
Yeah,
because
if you had listened to the show for the past 2.5 years, you probably would not, and this was the only thing you listened to, you probably would not even know who Robert Mueller is.
Yeah,
Like,
if your captor has been doing that, you are woefully
No, there's one
We're
thing you would know
sorry.
about Robert Mueller. You would know that his bussy wide AF and wilded out, because the one thing I do remember is Felix talking about fantasizing about getting railed by Robert Mueller.
The woman who posted the Robert Mueller that was the most we've ever covered Mueller. Was the woman who was like, I would love to get dicked down by Robert Mueller on Twitter.
this would probably, your knowledge of the Mueller investigation, Russiagate, would just seem like an inside joke that we invented on this program. And the way we've talked about it is really only as a launching point to analyze one, the sort of structures in the media and politics that led us to our current hell state, and two, as a shared pathology of a certain subset of liberals, which probably numbers in the millions, whose brains have been irrevocably broken by the election of Donald Trump. But compare our show with basically every other political podcast that did emergency pods about
bombshells,
about James Bort getting getting indicted for stealing a submarine.
That's a boom. Last month's deadly school shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High has reignited another debate, the debate over violent video games. On Thursday, President Trump met with video game industry executives at the White House. In the closed-door meeting, he brought up studies that showed a link between video game violence and violence in real life. To get his point across, he showed this, a White House-produced reel of gruesome and bloody images from video games. Kind of ironic. Critics say violent video games exist all over the world, yet the U.S. is the only country with such a terrible problem with school shootings. So let's get into it in Spotlight. Joining me now in studio, Virgil, Texas, a gamer and co-host of the podcast Chapo Trap House, and Matt Christman, fellow co-host of Chapo Trap House. He is critical of video games. They both co-wrote an upcoming book called The Chapo Guide to Revolution, a manifesto against logic, facts, and reason. Virgil, Texas, Matt Christman, thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having us.
So when we say let's get into it, this debate, and it's been a long simmering debate over, does the chicken meet the egg or what? I mean, do video games really promote violence in real life?
No, they don't. And this debate has already been settled. What Donald Trump is trying to do right now is resurrect a moral panic, a baseless moral panic from the 1990s that's already been thoroughly discredited. And he's doing this in order to distract from his unwillingness and his party's unwillingness to actually pursue effective and popular gun control legislation. And I don't think he's going to succeed at it, because I think that the debate over do video games cause violence, are video games art, that has been settled.
To be fair, the vast majority of gamers aren't going into schools and shooting up the building and killing people. But violence is violence, and whether you're playing it on a game or you're playing it in real life, the effects we're seeing, at least the link, at least in the research that we're seeing, there's some sort of connection.
I don't see it. I'm sorry. And I know that there's a lot of research that says the exact opposite thing. Mm-hmm. And I think this really mirrors the moral panics that occurred around films, when films started coming out, television, when television entered households, rap music, when that genre, came up. Even when novels came out, there's obviously violence and grittiness and reality, something that reflects our world in every medium.
Matt, let's bring you in. Your view on this?
Well, I actually agree with my colleague that this effort by the White House to bring back the violent video game question is very much a cynical attempt to deflect from the question of gun control. But just because Trump may be wrong for the right reasons, or right for the wrong reasons, he's still right in the essential question of whether video games are antisocial, which is a separate issue. I believe video games to contribute to a atomized social field where people are lured away from community and social interaction in favor of the pseudo-reality of video games, and that antisocialness takes different manifestations depending on different cultures. People will point out, well, there's video games in all these other countries and they don't shoot people. We are a country awash in guns and hypermilitarism. As a result, that antisocial behavior manifests more frequently in violent gun violence. In other countries, you have something like in Japan, the hikikomori phenomenon of an entire generation
Virgil
of
is
young
like
men.
Shaking his hand. He wants to jump in here.
A generation of young men who withdrew completely from society and are not interacting in any way with any kind of social forces. And that's because that more fits with the Japanese cultural context.
Well, let me just say this.
The central question is antisocial behavior.
Let me just say this. Why do we need to see the blood and people literally keeling over with multiple rounds being pumped into their bodies? Why does it have to go so far if it's just a game?
Well, so most video games, even ones that are ostensibly depict violence, they're not as gory as that propaganda video that Trump has put out here, Trump's people from that meeting, just in order to scare people and give people the wrong idea of what video games are.
Those aren't actually images from a video game?
Those are images from a video game, but I'm sorry, this is the exception. This is campy, bloody nonsense. And the vast majority of games, RPGs or even shooter games, you don't see that. This isn't just like a blood rampage.
Well, to take the Trump's advocate in this case, if that's the case, then why wouldn't you be able to limit access to those, what you admit is a small percentage of games that are hyper-violent and cartoonishly bloody?
If you want to limit access for children, sure, but obviously adults should be able to, get the media that they want. I mean, there's obviously a lot of extreme, like Mondo-type films, right, or slasher films or things like that. I mean, are you calling to ban that too?
But the other side of it is, shouldn't we be free to play whatever we want? Should we be free to enjoy a video game in the comfort of our own room without people jumping to conclusions that we're going to go out and shoot someone?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that those are choices that everyone has to make freely, and that these efforts to resurrect the notion of banning art are very much just cynical distractions. They're not going to lead anywhere, and they honestly don't care if they lead anywhere. They just want people to stop talking about guns. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that it's not important to remember, as adults, as people who are choosing every day to consume media, the danger inherent in consuming a media that is so sort of seductive in the way that it replicates the incentive structures of human life without actually allowing you to live.
I do take issue with that, because you're saying that video games alienate you from reality, real world. Right now, we do all of our banking online. We do all of our commerce online. We do war online via drones. Our society is almost fully gamified. It's fully online right now. Isn't someone who plays video games more in tune with what reality is? Aren't they living more full lives than your hypothetical Thoreau,
I would say that's a very cerebral argument there, for sure.
I would say that every one of those changes, the e-banking, certainly e-warfare, is a change for the worse, is a change that reduces our humanity, and that we should try to fight against that tide instead of just heedlessly going forward until we're willingly jacking ourselves into the matrix pod.
Yeah, but gentlemen, we've got to leave it there, but definitely an interesting debate, one that I'm sure will continue. We saw similar discussions around rap music, so this is not going away for sure. All right, Virgil, Texas, Matt Chrisman, co-host of the podcast Chapo Trap House. Thank you for both for being here on 924 News.
Check out the book.
Okay. Just real quick, let me run down what I got lined up today. We have the Kennedy race postmortem and the article in Politico about that. I also have an absolutely satanic article from the New York Times about divinity consultants working with offices to make. I can't even describe it. I just have to read it to you. And then I have, if we have time or you're interested, I have an excerpt from Matt Iglesias' new book about how there needs to be 1 billion Americans. I haven't read this, but maybe it would be interesting to just cold read it and see if we can all just try to figure out what the fuck.
Yep. Other things I had were that thing Joyanne Reed said.
Oh, that was.
Oh, right, that was funny. And you said
kind of funny. And Tiger King.
What about it?
Did we ever talk about Tiger King?
I don't think so.
I've got some thoughts on it.
Okay. You also mentioned the Bella Thorne OnlyFans kerfuffle.
No, I that was a mistake. I meant to type that into Google.
Well, I remember a while ago, Virgil, you were talking about how you wanted to start.
Yeah, weren't you talking about doing an OnlyFans, Virgil?
Yeah, but everyone else got on it, and the novelty value of that kind of wore off.
But the novelty value of you hasn't worn off, because you're in shorter supply now than you've ever been.
Yeah, people have been craving more Virgil content.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I've got to think about it, because after Bella Thorne went on, she kind of screwed everything up for everyone, and I would feel bad if I screwed everything up for everyone, because then it's whoops. Everyone's, you oaf, you destroyed the website.
Yeah, but
that's the livelihood for thousands of people.
All you have to do is remind them that they're not allowed to get mad at you, which is rule number 1 when engaging with you.
Right, but I mean, where am I going to communicate that? Because then I'll
On your
screw up the
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans.
Yeah.
But the OnlyFans will have been screwed up by my oafishness, by my moron dum-dumness.
You can get like a
this Bella Thorne
vibey
asshole.
neon sign in the background of your OnlyFans that says "You are not allowed to get mad at me."
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like those neon signs by that artist.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
you
even better, a series of balloons.
Yes, I was gonna
sort of
say.
back brick lot wall that says, "You cannot get mad at me, Virgil, Texas." And
What
then you're
is
standing
that?
by it and kind of waving.
What is that? I've been seeing that. I don't know what that is.
It's some artist whose art is
Artist.
amazingly cloying sort of slogans and self affirmations, but just sort of written in balloons.
In Mylar balloons, yeah.
So his medium is balloon.
Yes,
yeah,
it's
and it's
balloons.
like, don't forget to drink water, but in a balloon form, which
Oh,
is what
Jesus.
everyone was waiting to see it in to really take
That's not
take it to heart.
fun. That's
Well,
what you
think
want
of-
to communicate?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, think how much better it would be if the message was subscribe to Virgil Texas OnlyFans. P.S. You cannot get mad at me. By
Yeah,
agreeing,
okay,
by
so
agreeing
do
you
I-
are signing a
how do
contract
I-
that you cannot get mad at me.
Well, how do I hire the balloon man? Is he available for parties? Is he a listing of children's entertainers?
That'd be amazing. It's like some kids, some mom who's on Twitter too much hires him for her kid's birthday party, and the kids are all excited that they're going to do balloon animals, but it's just he puts out on the fence. It just says "You are valid."
It costs $80,000. Yeah. Well, also, will he work for a free OnlyFans subscription? Because that's kind of what I've got right now in terms of currency.
I mean, as I understand the Bella Thorne kerfuffle, I mean, I think she fucked up the platform by joining it at like a very high rate. It was like $200 to follow her or something, and then charging extra for like a nude photo,
Right,
which like
yeah.
tons of fucking suckers just cashed out for, and then like the photo wasn't nude. So what happened was there was just like
They did all these
a ton of people
chargebacks.
asked for a refund at the same time, and it crashed the website. So as long as you don't do that,
well, I mean,
Virgil, I think you're.
that's pretty bad. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know exactly how credit cards work. I mean, so there's some element of magic in there, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm gonna guess if you're this big e-commerce website, it's pretty bad if like thousands of people are making fucking chargebacks. Like you probably get penalized in some
Yeah,
way.
it's sort of like a. I bet it's. I imagine it's sort of like in "It's a Wonderful Life," and like Steve OnlyFans is saying to all the angry horny guys, well, "Your money's not here. It's at Mia Khalifa's OnlyFans. It's Jenna Jameson's OnlyFans."
Yeah, so OnlyFans had to do a change in their website where now you can't charge more than a certain amount. Maybe it's like 50, maybe it's like 100.
When I say I'm going to give you nudes, that's a measure of trust. It's not just a subscription. It's a measure of our community.
But I don't know. I can imagine like, hey, if it's a website, I'm gonna ruin it. I'm just a klutz.
That's the Virgil Texas promise.
I won't.
I will ruin it, but you're not allowed to get mad at me when it happens.